Most people wake up already losing the day. Before their feet even touch the floor, their mind is hijacked by notifications, stress, noise, and mental chaos. And the frightening part is this: they think it's normal. But what if I told you that the first 60 minutes after waking up determine the quality of your focus, your emotional stability, your energy levels, and even your long-term brain health? In this video, you're going to discover a science-backed morning protocol designed to rewire your brain for deep productivity, mental clarity, emotional control, and relentless consistency. Not motivation, not hype, real biological control over your mind and body. By the end of this video, you will understand why most morning routines fail, how dopamine and cortisol secretly control your decisions, and the exact habits high performers use to dominate their day before the world even wakes up. This is not another wake up at 5 a.m. fantasy. This is a neurological blueprint for becoming mentally sharper, calmer, and more disciplined every single morning. The human brain is extremely vulnerable during the first moments after waking up. In neuroscience, this period is known as the transitional brain state. Your brain is moving from slower theta wave activity into higher alertness patterns. And during this transition, your mind becomes highly programmable. Whatever enters your brain first begins shaping your emotional direction for the rest of the day. That's why checking your phone immediately after waking up is one of the most destructive habits in modern life. The moment you expose your brain to messages, social media, headlines, or endless stimulation, your nervous system shifts into reactive mode. Instead of controlling your attention becomes controlled by the outside world. This is why so many people feel mentally exhausted before noon. Their brain never had a chance to stabilize itself. Instead of creating internal clarity, they start the day consuming external chaos. The deep morning protocol begins with something deceptively simple: silence. For the first 10 minutes after waking up, you do absolutely nothing stimulating. No phone, no music, no conversations, no scrolling. You sit with your thoughts. You allow the brain to fully transition into conscious awareness naturally. This quiet period lowers unnecessary dopamine spikes and reduces mental fragmentation. Studies show that constant stimulation immediately after waking increases cortisol dysregulation and weakens sustained focus later in the day. Most people are addicted to stimulation because silence forces them to confront mental noise they've been avoiding for years. But silence is where cognitive control begins. When your brain is not overloaded with instant information, it starts organizing itself. Thoughts become clearer, emotions stabilize, decision-making improves. And then comes the second phase of the protocol: light exposure. Within the first 30 minutes of waking, exposing your eyes to natural sunlight triggers one of the most powerful biological systems in the human body. Morning light activates specialized retinal cells connected directly to the brain's master clock. This regulates cortisol timing, dopamine production, alertness, metabolism, and nighttime melatonin release. In simple terms, morning sunlight tells your brain when to feel awake and when to feel tired. This is why people who rarely see morning sunlight often struggle with low energy, brain fog, poor sleep quality, and emotional instability. Their biological clock becomes confused. Even 5 to 10 minutes of outdoor sunlight in the morning can dramatically improve cognitive performance throughout the day. And this is where the protocol becomes different from typical productivity advice. We are not chasing temporary motivation. We are engineering your biology for sustainable mental performance. The next stage of the deep morning protocol focuses on something most people completely misunderstand. Energy is not created by caffeine. It is created by movement. Your body was never designed to wake up motionless. Yet millions of people begin their mornings hunched over a screen, flooding their bloodstream with artificial stimulation while their nervous system remains physically dormant. And over time, this disconnect slowly destroys mental sharpness, emotional resilience, and productivity. The human brain and body operate as one integrated system. When physical movement is absent after waking, blood circulation remains sluggish, oxygen delivery to the brain decreases, and the nervous system struggles to reach optimal alertness. This is why so many people feel mentally slow in the morning, even after sleeping for 8 hours. Their body may be awake, but their biology is still inactive. The deep morning protocol introduces controlled movement immediately after sunlight exposure. Not extreme workouts, not exhausting cardio, strategic activation. The goal is simple: signal to the nervous system that the day has begun. This can be a brisk walk, mobility exercises, stretching, light bodyweight movements, or controlled breathing combined with movement. Research shows that even short periods of physical activity in the morning increase dopamine sensitivity, improve executive function, and enhance cognitive flexibility. In simple language, your brain becomes better at focusing, learning, and resisting distractions. But here's where things become even more powerful. Movement is not only physical, it's emotional regulation. When you move your body early in the morning, you release stored tension accumulated during stress, anxiety, and poor sleep. Your nervous system begins shifting from passive survival mode into active control mode. This is why disciplined movement habits are strongly connected with lower rates of depression, burnout, and mental fatigue. Most people believe motivation creates action. In reality, action creates motivation. Waiting to feel ready is one of the biggest psychological traps destroying modern productivity. The brain develops momentum through behavior, not thoughts. Once your body begins moving, your mind follows. And now we reach one of the most misunderstood elements of modern mornings: dopamine control. Every morning, your brain searches for the fastest source of reward possible: social media, messages, videos, sugar, caffeine overload, instant entertainment. These behaviors create massive dopamine spikes before your brain has completed its natural regulation cycle. And when dopamine rises too fast, your baseline motivation crashes later in the day. This is why people feel highly stimulated in the morning, but mentally drained only a few hours later. Their reward system becomes unstable. The deep morning protocol avoids artificial dopamine overload during the first hour of the day. No endless scrolling, no chaotic content consumption, no emotional overstimulation. Instead, you train the brain to generate dopamine slowly through deliberate effort. Sunlight, movement, breath control, mental focus. This creates sustainable energy instead of emotional crashes. High performers understand something most people never realize. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to suffer. It's about protecting your brain from unnecessary chaos. Your attention is your most valuable biological resource, and every distraction weakens it. This is why the protocol includes another critical rule: delay caffeine for at least 60 to 90 minutes after waking. Most people use caffeine to artificially override their body's natural wake-up process. But caffeine immediately after waking interferes with adenosine clearance, increasing dependence and creating energy crashes later in the day. When you delay caffeine, your brain stabilizes naturally first. Then caffeine becomes a performance enhancer instead of a survival tool. This single change alone can dramatically improve focus consistency, emotional balance, and long-term energy regulation. The modern world trains people to seek instant comfort every morning, but comfort creates cognitive weakness. The deep morning protocol trains the opposite: calm control, biological alignment, intentional focus. And when practiced consistently, these small morning behaviors begin transforming not just your productivity, but your entire identity. Now we arrive at the stage where most people completely lose control of their day without even realizing it. Mental direction. The average person wakes up and immediately enters reaction mode. They react to notifications, react to stress, react to other people's demands, react to endless information. Their brain spends the entire day responding instead of leading. And after years of living this way, they begin feeling mentally scattered, emotionally exhausted, and deeply unfocused. But the brain was never designed for constant reactivity. One of the most powerful parts of the deep morning protocol is intentional cognitive priming. Before the world gains access to your attention, you decide what your mind will focus on. This is where clarity becomes a weapon. After movement and nervous system activation, the protocol shifts into deep mental alignment. And this begins with one question: what truly matters today? Not 10 goals, not 50 tasks, not endless busy work. The human brain performs best when focus becomes narrow and meaningful. Research in cognitive science consistently shows that multitasking weakens memory, increases stress hormones, and reduces the quality of decision-making. Every time your attention switches rapidly between tasks, your brain burns additional mental energy. This is why highly productive people often appear calm. Their brain is not overloaded with unnecessary decisions. The deep morning protocol introduces what neuroscientists call cognitive simplification. Instead of overwhelming the mind with complexity early in the day, you identify one high-impact mission that deserves your best mental energy, one meaningful target. This creates psychological direction, and direction eliminates mental noise. Most people mistake activity for progress, but movement without direction only creates exhaustion. The protocol forces your brain to prioritize depth over distraction. And then comes one of the most transformative habits of all: deep thinking without stimulation. For at least 10 to 15 minutes each morning, you sit alone with your thoughts and a notebook. No music, no content, no external input, just thinking. At first, this feels uncomfortable because modern brains are addicted to constant entertainment. Silence feels empty to overstimulated minds, but eventually something extraordinary begins happening. Your thoughts become organized, problems become clearer, creativity increases, emotional patterns become visible. The brain needs uninterrupted space to process information. Many of history's greatest thinkers, scientists, writers, and top innovators protected periods of intentional solitude because deep insight rarely appears during chaos. It appears during stillness. This practice also strengthens metacognition, the ability to observe your own thinking. And this is one of the highest forms of intelligence. When you can observe your impulses instead of instantly obeying them, self-control becomes dramatically stronger. You begin noticing destructive thought loops before they control your behavior. You begin separating temporary emotions from long-term goals. You begin leading your mind instead of being controlled by it. And now we reach a critical truth most people avoid hearing. Mental clarity is not accidental. It is trained. The modern environment profits from distraction. Every notification, algorithm, headline, and endless stream of content competes for your attention because attention has become one of the most valuable commodities on Earth. If you do not intentionally protect your focus, the world will consume it for you. The Deep Morning Protocol acts like a psychological shield against this chaos. Instead of beginning the day overstimulated and reactive, you begin calm, deliberate, and mentally centered. And over time, this changes far more than productivity. Your emotional reactions become slower and more controlled. Your decisions become sharper. Your confidence becomes internal instead of dependent on external validation. Because true discipline is not about controlling the world around you. It's about controlling the environment inside your own mind. And once your mornings become intentional, your entire life begins moving in a different direction. Now comes the part of the Deep Morning Protocol that separates temporary self-improvement from permanent transformation. Consistency. Most people are not failing because they lack information. They are failing because their habits are emotionally unstable. They depend on motivation to function. And motivation is one of the weakest psychological forces in human behavior because it changes constantly based on mood, stress, sleep, emotions, and environment. This is why people start powerful routines for 3 days, feel unstoppable for 1 week, and then disappear back into old patterns. Their system was built on emotion instead of structure. The Deep Morning Protocol is different. It is designed to reduce internal resistance so the brain can sustain the routine long term. And the first principle is this: stop trying to become a different person overnight. The brain resists sudden identity shocks. When people attempt extreme morning transformations, waking up at impossible hours, forcing brutal routines, overloading themselves with unrealistic goals, the nervous system interprets it as stress instead of growth. Eventually, the brain seeks comfort and pulls them back toward familiar habits. Real transformation happens through repetition, not intensity. Tiny actions repeated consistently reshape neural pathways over time. This process is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to physically rewire itself based on repeated behavior. Every morning routine you repeat becomes easier because the brain begins automating the pattern. At first, discipline feels exhausting because the brain is building new circuits. But eventually, the behavior requires less mental effort. This is when consistency becomes identity. You no longer try to be focused. You become someone who protects focus naturally. You no longer force healthy habits. They become automatic standards. This is why the protocol emphasizes simplicity. A sustainable routine always defeats an extreme routine that collapses after 2 weeks. And here's another truth most people ignore. Your environment silently shapes your behavior every single morning. If your phone is beside your bed, your brain will reach for stimulation automatically. If your room is chaotic, your mind absorbs that chaos subconsciously. If your morning begins with noise, urgency, and distraction, your nervous system enters stress mode before the day even starts. Human behavior is heavily influenced by environmental cues. The brain constantly searches for shortcuts. This means your surroundings either strengthen discipline or destroy it. The deep morning protocol removes friction from positive behaviors and increases friction around destructive ones. Place your phone away from the bed. Prepare your workout clothes the night before. Keep a notebook visible. Create physical environments that encourage calmness and clarity, because discipline is easier when the environment supports it. And now we reach one of the deepest psychological shifts within the protocol: self-respect through self-control. Every time you keep a promise to yourself in the morning, your brain records evidence that you are trustworthy. This strengthens internal confidence. Not fake confidence built from social approval, but real confidence built from personal integrity. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, the opposite happens. The brain begins associating your own goals with failure. Over time, this weakens self-belief. This is why mornings matter so much psychologically. The first decisions of the day create emotional momentum. Win the morning, and your brain carries that momentum forward. Lose the morning, and distraction begins spreading into every part of the day. But the most powerful realization is this: the deep morning protocol is not really about waking up earlier. It's about reclaiming ownership over your attention, your emotions, your habits, and your future. Because once a person learns how to control the beginning of their day, they slowly become capable of controlling the direction of their entire life. The final stage of the deep morning protocol is where everything comes together, not as a routine, not as a productivity trick, but as a complete shift in how you live, think, and operate every single day. Because eventually you realize something most people never understand. Your life is not controlled by a few major decisions. It is controlled by repeated daily patterns. The way you wake up each morning quietly shapes your emotional state, your focus, your discipline, your relationships, your physical health, and even the future version of yourself you are becoming. Small actions seem invisible in the moment, but repeated over months and years, they become destiny. And this is why the modern world feels mentally exhausting for so many people. Most individuals are living in constant cognitive overload, endless information, endless distractions, endless stimulation. Their nervous system never fully recovers because their mind is always reacting to something. They wake up stressed, move through the day distracted, and go to sleep mentally drained. Then they repeat the cycle again and again. But the deep morning protocol interrupts that cycle. It teaches your brain how to slow down internally while becoming stronger externally. And one of the most important lessons within this entire system is understanding that mental clarity is not the absence of problems. It is the ability to remain focused despite them. Life will still bring stress. There will still be difficult days, emotional pressure, setbacks, uncertainty, and moments where motivation disappears completely. But when your mornings are structured, your mind becomes more stable during chaos. That stability changes everything. You make better decisions under pressure. You become less emotionally reactive. You stop depending on temporary feelings to determine your actions. And this is where true discipline is born. Not in intensity, not in perfection, but in repetition. The people who transform their lives are usually not the loudest, most aggressive, or most naturally talented. They are the individuals who learn how to remain consistent long after excitement fades away. And consistency is built through systems. That is exactly what this protocol creates: a system for mental clarity, a system for focus, a system for emotional control, a system for protecting your attention in a world designed to destroy it. Imagine waking up each morning without immediately feeling anxious. Imagine beginning the day with calm focus instead of mental noise. Imagine having enough internal control to direct your energy toward meaningful goals instead of wasting it on endless distraction. That is what happens when you stop allowing the external world to control your nervous system. The truth is, most people spend years trying to change their life while ignoring the first hour of their day. But the first hour is where momentum begins. It is where identity is reinforced. It is where the brain decides whether it will operate with intention or confusion. And once you understand this, mornings stop becoming random. They become strategic. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, before the noise of the world enters your mind, remember this. Your attention is valuable. Your mind is programmable. Your habits are shaping your future whether you realize it or not. And the quality of your mornings eventually becomes the quality of your life. The deep morning protocol is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming conscious. Because when you finally learn to master your mornings, you slowly begin mastering yourself.